So today we are going to learn that the hit song Bo Bis Bit, it's the future, be most bit to spot, it's the future, while beautiful and catchy as heck, is not entirely truthful in the sense that Bo Bis Bit, be most bit to spot is not the only future. So maybe in an alternative version of the song you could add in, it's a version of the future. But because there is a separate set of future endings for the third and fourth conjugation. And so before we dive into those, although you can see them written out below here for at least the active voice, let's do a quick review of the first and second conjugation future. So hopefully we are pretty comfortable with these now. You see them listed out here for the first conjugation word, woko, wokare. And you can peruse them as your own. The one that might be a little bit tricky is that second person singular passive form, wokaberis, instead of there's an E instead of an I there. But otherwise, this is pretty standard. And a reminder that these same endings would be attached to the second principal part minus RE for all first conjugation verbs and also for all second conjugation verbs, which are all those verbs that have an E, a strong E with a macron, right? ERE in the second principal part. So an example being habeo, habere, to have, or temeo, temere, to fear, to be afraid of. All those have these future endings. However, when we get to the third IO, and fourth conjugation, we do not use bo bis bit. I can't hammer this home enough. This is a tricky thing that we really want to get down, but these, if it's a third or fourth conjugation verb, we do not use bo bis bit. Instead, we use es et. So just remember, in the future, you have two options: bo bis bit, es et. First two conjugations use bo bis bit. Second two conjugations use es et. And now, before we actually look at the future forms, the trickiest thing about the third conjugation future is people, once they learn it, start using those forms in place of the third and fourth conjugation present forms, and they get them all tangled up. And so in order to try and avoid doing that, I'm going to start by looking back at the third IO, and fourth conjugation present. So whereas in the future we're going to have predominantly E's, a reminder, what is the vowel that we have in the present tense for the third and fourth conjugation? Take a second to think of it. Pause the video if you like. It's I's, mostly I's, except for in the third plural where we have U's. So rego, regis, regit, regimus, regitis, regunt. And then again, once more, we see in that second person singular passive the tricky E where we might expect an I. So it's regor, regeris, regitor, regimor, regimini, and again, reguntor. And another friendly reminder that the only difference usually between the active and the passive, this should say passive, is that instead of having active endings, OST must assent, we have passive endings, arvis, ter, murmini, and ter. Alright, so keeping that in mind, let's look at the third IO. Capio, capere. Remember, third IO just means that it's a third conjugation verb that has an IO in the first principal part. Capio, facio are two classic examples of this. And if we look at these forms, they are exactly the same as rego. The only difference is going to be that in a couple of situations, when there's a vowel besides the I, we're going to have we're going to put in an I before that vowel. So copiunt, copiuntor, and copio, copior have an I in their stem. For some strange reason, we do not keep the I in that second person singular, it's just caparis. But we see that this form, again, these forms are all the same as rego, besides the fact that we occasionally have that I before the vowels. Okay? And these forms are going to be even more similar to actually third IOs are going to have almost more in common with the fourth conjugation. So let's just look at the fourth conjugation present again. Again, all I's in the present. And we really want to link present with I's in the third and fourth conjugation. And in the future, what's the vowel that we're going to have? We're going to have E's. All right. So, but for right now, we're still in the I's. Again, that second person singular in the passive is the one form that changes. Second person singular is the most dastardly of person forms, always throwing us curveballs. And here we have the I that we would expect, because right in the present we drop the RE in the second principal part and we add on our endings. OST must descend, or Arister Murmini inter. Moving on, we were now that we've reviewed the present, move on to the third future. So the future, not too scary. Remember am es et? The reason why I tell you to remember am es et is if you remember that, you should be able to remember the rest, because there are just more ease with the endings we've now gotten really well learned, right? Mustis ent in the plural. So am es et, amus etis ent, regar regeris regetor regemor regemini regentor. Nothing too crazy. What I will highlight for you is this second person singular. Again, this is the theme of the slideshow. Second person singular is tricky. We have an E with a macron. You might, if you're savvy, notice that that is very similar to the present form. So let's go back and look at that present form right now. E without a macron. So E without a macron is the present, you are ruled. E with a macron is the future, you will be ruled. Regeris, you are ruled. Regeris, you will be ruled. A trick that I like to use to remember this is that the future is more complex than the present, and so the future is the one that has the macron, because having a macron is more complex than not having a macron. I don't know if that will work for you, but maybe give it a try. And so otherwise though, right, everything is kind of what we would expect. If we just remember am es et, the passive is just those same forms, but with R, ris, ter, murmini, inter endings, passive endings attached. Let's look at the other. Now let's look quickly at the fourth conjugation. We'll see that it looks exactly the same, except for now we have I's before all these vowels, right? Because that I stays in. We go to the second principal part, chop off the RE. So our stem is audi, rather than our stem being reg before. So because there's an I in the stem, we got to keep it in, and it stays throughout all the forms. But otherwise, all the forms are the same. We again have in the second person singular passive, audieris, you will be heard, which is very similar. Oh, actually, no, it's not as similar, right? Because the fourth conjugation, present passive forms, actually have an IRIS, because we keep the I from the stem, right? So there's less of that confusion. When you see audieris, you should really know that it's the future tense. Okay. So now we've gotten a chance to look at some of these forms. Let's do a little practice. And just remember that this am es et is the future only for third and fourth. We still have to remember bo bis bit for which conjugations? First and second, yes. So here's some practice. What I really encourage you to do right now is pause the video and try and do these on your own. The vocab is taken mostly from the last couple chapters in terms of verbs. Try and do these on your own now, and then I'm after a short pause, I'm going to go and walk you through the answers to all of them. But pause the video now and try it on your own. Here are the answers. So, I will capture is capiam, right? Because capio, capere is a third conjugation verb, so we know we're using am es et. It's also a third IO, so we have to have the I in there. Capiam, I will capture. You will be eaten. Comederes, the key here, comedo, comedere, we say to ourselves, we have to ask ourselves what are the principal parts, find out what conjugation the verb is from, then we need to know if we're using bo bis bit or am es et. And now the extra tricky thing here is because it's second person singular passive, we have to decide, is there a macron or is there not a macron? Because that's going to decide whether we're in the present or the future. Remember, in the future it has a macron, more complex, Future more complex than the present. Has a macron. Number 3, she touches. Tangit. Ah, maybe I caught you here. Remember, make sure you pay attention to the tense. She touches is in the present tense. So we don't have e's, we have i's again. I's in the present for the third and fourth conjugation. Number 4, I'm testing to make sure you're paying attention to what conjugation the verb is. Separate is separo, separo, separare. So it's actually first conjugation, so we have bobis bit ending. Separabis. Number 5, we come together. Convenimus. Again, I'm testing to make sure you're paying attention to the tense. We are in the present tense, so we actually use i's again, not e's. So instead of having conveniemus, which would be we will come together, we have convenimus, we come together. He will be asked, rogabitur. Again, just testing to make sure you're paying attention to what conjugation a word is to choose your future. And then number 7 is venient, because it's venio, venire. We know it is fourth conjugation, so we know we're going to have ames et, and we're going to have i's in the stem. All right, I hope this helped. We'll have plenty more practice to come. So I will see you tomorrow.